Hey guys, check out this anime here. Our protagonist was sent to a magic school upon his brother's recommendation, but he was very mistaken when he thought it would be a simple magic school. There, he encounters many mysteries and a huge maze that takes over the school at night. That's exactly what we're going to see in today's video. The anime starts by explaining that in this school, 20% of all enrolled students drop out before graduation for various reasons. After this brief explanation, we see our protagonist and several other students walking towards the school. While he was walking, a flower comes to talk to him. Yes, a talking flower. She says, he seems very nervous, and he responds by asking her if it's that obvious. The flower confirms, and says he should try to relax, as today is his entrance ceremony, and even if a terrible future awaits him, he should be happy about it. What a mischievous little flower. After that, our protagonist becomes a bit thoughtful and says that this kind of thing can really scare newcomers. Then he meets a boy and a girl who are talking about that plant. The boy says that she shouldn't worry about her sharp tongue, as the plants there are especially malicious, since they are enveloped in a lot of magic, and that changes their temperament. The girl relaxes, and says that even though she doesn't know much about magical plants, she particularly loves magical creatures of all kinds. And then, we see a blonde girl arguing with a nerd. She says he should watch where he's going instead of reading that book, as he almost stepped on the stem of Madam, that plant from earlier. And at that moment, a girl wearing samurai attire passes by them, catching everyone's attention, not only because of her clothes, but also because of her incredible beauty. And now, for some reason that we don't know yet, we're shown a scene that appears to be from the future, where Oliver, our protagonist, is fighting with that samurai, and he starts thinking that meeting her might be his destiny. Sometime later, they arrive at the school and immediately witness a parade of magical creatures, where several beasts and animals march for everyone. At some point, a dragon appears, and a boy asks Oliver what race it is. Oliver explains that it's a Fafnir, and adds that there's no other dragon with scales so bright and beautiful. The boy is impressed and says he knows his stuff. After that, the boy who was talking to Oliver asks about the girl from earlier. He says she claimed to love magical creatures, so why is she looking so serious? She admits that she loves them, but tells them to look at the parade. They are making a troll walk alongside other beasts as if it were just any other monster, and she says that shouldn't be allowed. The boy, on the other hand, says that it's just a troll. They don't speak their language, and the wildest ones attack villages and people. Under those circumstances, it's obvious that some of them would be trained to serve them. She gets angry and says they only do that because humans invade their territories, and that in reality, they are gentle creatures. They start arguing about it, and at that moment, another student tells them to shut up, as they're bothering him. They apologize, and the boy says it's okay. At that moment, Oliver says they should introduce themselves before fighting like that. And as the girl is about to say her name, one of the students casts a spell on her, and she starts running against her will. She heads towards the monsters, and when she realizes, she finds herself right in front of a troll. The magic in her legs is removed, but now it's too late. The troll is right in front of her and staring directly at her. The girl is paralyzed, and the troll is about to attack her. But before he can do it, that samurai lets out a loud scream, and the troll stops his attack. She stands in front of the girl and asks if she can run. The girl says she can't, her legs are frozen. The samurai says that if that's the case, she should just stay where she is, and she'll handle the rest. The samurai draws her sword, and the other boys try to help by distracting the troll. The blonde girl uses magic, but it doesn't do anything to the troll. Then, they try all together, but Oliver tells them to stop, as it probably won't work like before. He says he has a plan and tells everyone to use wind spells and aim where he's directing, and they all do as he says. Then, Oliver uses a spell that adds to the others, resulting in a wind dragon that makes a very loud noise, attracting the troll's attention. At that moment, the samurai finds an opening and charges at the troll. As she jumps to attack, her hair turns white, and she finally lands a hit on the troll's head, knocking him out, and she saves the girl. After defeating him, her hands are trembling, and she starts complaining about how hard the troll's head was. There, she says it feels like she washed her hands with thunder. I wonder if she's ever done that to know the feeling, but oh well. Then the four of them arrive, and the samurai thanks them for their help. Thanks to the spell they cast, she finally hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Gotcha, right? You all should subscribe too. Actually, thanks to the spell, she found an opening to clobber the giant troll. Sometime later, they arrive at the school and are at the admission ceremony. Oliver goes to talk to the samurai and is surprised that she had no plan when she stood in front of that troll. She says she just didn't see any alternatives, she had to save the girl. At that moment, Oliver remembers that her hair's color changed at that time, and he calls that ability, innocent color. It's kind of a transformation that facilitates the flow of magical particles, thus giving more power to those who use that ability. And, having said that, she must have great potential to be a mage. Now, it's announced that the ceremony will begin. The principal appears after a flash of light right in the middle of the room, introducing herself as Esmeralda, the school's principal. She starts apologizing for the troll incident and informs everyone that it has been recaptured and is under control. After that, she says that Kimberly Magic Academy will be the learning home where they will spend the next 7 years. And she says that the only things that matter in that school are 2 words, freedom and results. In other words, she says they should live and die the way they want. And she adds that it's not a metaphor, as 20% of all enrolled students don't graduate because they've been eliminated before the end of the course. She says that if anyone has any questions about what she just said, they should speak up immediately, and she will answer. At that moment, the silly samurai raises her hand and says she has a question. The principal tells her to ask, and so she does. But we can see that she doesn't really have a question. She advises the principal to make circular movements like you're seeing now, in case you feel a headache, and it will go away. Oliver looks at her and asks if she's dumb. She says no, it's true, and it really works. Try it at home, and let me know in the comments if it worked, alright? Then, the principal announces that the welcome banquet will begin. She uses magic to make everyone float, and when they land back down, all the tables are set, and the seniors enter the hall to celebrate with them. After that, the food appears, lots of food. They sit down and start talking. They introduce themselves, and the blonde girl starts. She says her name is Michaela McFarlane. Then, the crazy creature lover introduces herself. Her name is Katie Alto, which is ironic since she's quite short. And she adds that she loves magical creatures and all kinds of animals. After her, the boy introduces himself. His name is Guy Greenwood, and his family is made up of farmers. Then, the nerd introduces himself. His name is Pete Reston, and he says his parents are non-magical. At that moment, Oliver praises him, saying that he's reading a good book. This makes him very excited since he didn't know anyone who liked the same thing. After that, Oliver introduces himself. His name is Oliver Horn, and his family has had mages since his grandfather's time, and currently, he's living with some relatives. He says he has primos that consider as brothers, and they already studied at Kimberly, and he wants to follow their steps. Michaela talks to him that the way he made that dragon voice was incredible, and Oliver says that altering spells and using them in other ways is what he does best. And finally the samurai introduces herself. She says she was born in a family of samurais in the east, and her name is Nanao Hibiya. She says her arrival to the school was weird. She tells that she was about to go to base in a war, when suddenly, a wizard named McFarlane saved her and invited her to the school. The blonde girl says that since this guy has the same surname as her, probably is from her father that Nanao is talking about. She just finds it strange that he went to Asia. After everyone introduced themselves, they start eating to celebrate the entrance of everyone in the Magic Academy. Some don't know how to cut or serve the plates, so Oliver ends up being the waiter for everyone there. Later, already at night, Oliver observes the clock and sees that it is a little crazy. He realizes that there are clock deceivers there, and for this, he must pay attention, not to lose the schedule of things. Here we see that he is sharing the room with Peter. Oliver decides to take a walk outside just before dawn. When he leaves, a voice talks to him, and asks why is he leaving so early. Oliver replies that he just wanted to take a look at the school while everything is still quiet, and asks who she is. The girl tells him not to worry. She is just a secret agent sent by Gwyn, Oliver's brother. She received orders to observe him until he gets used to the place. Oliver asks her name, and she says it's Teresa Karst. And after that she goes away. Oliver keeps walking until he arrives at a fountain, and guess what he finds there? Yes, exactly what everyone's thinking. A naked samurai bathing in the school's fountain. It was obvious, right? I bet everyone thought of that. At that moment, Oliver is paralyzed as he looks at her. But then he uses his wand to create a barrier so that nobody can see her naked. After that, he asks what on earth she's doing there since it's not a place for taking baths, and it's right in front of the male dormitory. She says it's no problem if people see, and we can see that she's fully covered, just as we suspected. But she explains that she's not just taking a bath, she's purifying herself from the blood spilled during the last war. Oliver observes that she has many scars, and she mentions that there were tough battles during the war. Nanao apologizes for him seeing this kind of thing, and as Oliver observes her, he is reminded of someone else we still don't know. Nanao finishes bathing, and Oliver offers his cloak for her to cover herself, and she thanks him. In his thoughts, he says he just met a pure and innocent girl with a faint scent of blood that nothing could remove. And today's video starts with one of the teachers welcoming them to the sword arts class. Before beginning the class, he provides an overview of what these sword arts are. The teacher asks if anyone can explain what it's about, and right away Pete, being the nerd he is, volunteers to explain. While he is introducing himself, some students start teasing him, saying that the nerd won't do anything in life except study. They also say that he wants to be the teacher's pet on the first day. Oliver notices the bullies making fun of his friend, but decides not to do anything for now. Then Pete starts his explanation. He says that sword arts are techniques performed with swords, as the name suggests. The use of swords by magicians began around 400 years ago when a magician was defeated by a non-magician in a one-on-one duel. Since then, magicians have carried swords to deal with close-range attacks or when they don't have time to cast a spell. They can also fight with the sword and use non-enchanted magic to distract or blind their enemy, making magicians' battles much more dynamic, and this style became the standard up to today. The teacher agrees that his explanation is correct and informs them that on the first day, he chooses 2 students who already know how to use swords to duel each other. Then he asks who volunteers for this. Without hesitation, Nanao steps forward. And then, one of the bullies who were teasing Pete also offers to participate in the duel, clearly intending to gain advantage over Nanao and gain fame for it. Oliver notices this and quickly raises his hand, saying he will fight Nanao, as they have a connection from fighting together against that troll we saw in the previous video. The guy gets angry and tells Oliver not to interfere, but Oliver stands firm and says he's the one who shouldn't interfere. The sly guy tries to mock Oliver and says he was stupid for fighting the troll, claiming that in this situation, it's best to wait for the instructors to handle it. Oliver agrees, saying that's a rational decision. He asks if that's what the guy would do when his friend is about to be destroyed. With this question, Oliver puts the smart aleck in his place, and he gets angry. Just as he was about to ramble on, Chella interrupts and says that if he's so eager to fight, he should fight her. Chella adds that everyone would be much more impressed if he defeated her instead of Nanao, and she immediately asks if he's afraid to fight her. To avoid looking weak, the guy accepts the challenge, and so it's settled. Oliver will fight Nanao, and Chella will fight the foolish guy. The teacher approves, and soon the first duel between Oliver and Nanao begins. Before they start, the teacher casts a spell to make the attacks non-lethal, so they won't get hurt. The one who lands a fatal blow to the chest or head will win. And he reminds everyone that student duels can only be fought in this way. Anyone caught dueling without the non-lethal spell will face severe punishment if they don't eliminate themselves in the process. The duel begins, and Oliver thinks about taking it easy since Nanao isn't good with magic and doesn't know sword arts. However, Oliver is in for a surprise. Nanao is really skilled with the sword. She gained a lot of experience fighting on real battlefields. Oliver is under a lot of pressure from Nanao. She's really impressive. He realizes he can't take it easy and starts using magic in the fight. It's clear that both of them are extremely strong, and at one point, when their swords cross, there's even a shockwave in the ring. They continue having an amazing battle. Oliver realizes this is no ordinary duel. He also notices that Nanao's sword has been bathed in the blood of many people, and there have been quite a few. In the middle of the fight, they back away, and Nanao begins to get emotional for some reason. For a brief moment, there's a tension between them. Nanao thanks him deeply for having such a magnificent battle. Then they focus on their final attacks. With his thoughts filled with sword craziness, Oliver says he's going to fight with everything he's got against her, until one of them bites the dust. These two have some crazy ideas, man. Unfortunately for them, or maybe fortunately, the teacher interrupts the fight before they can attack each other. The teacher, angry, asks if they don't remember him telling them not to eliminate each other. He says that even if unintentionally, they've broken the non-lethality spell. Oliver, confused, asks himself what on earth they were trying to do. After that, the teacher tells them to put away their swords and take a rest. Then, Chella tells the teacher that just that fight was enough, and she wants to give up her fight against Andrews, and he agrees with it. At this point, Oliver heads off seriously. While he's leaving, Nanao runs after him all excited and says that it was an amazing fight, and she's never had such an exciting duel before. In her exuberance, she says that it's really a shame they couldn't finish each other off. But Oliver just continues walking and doesn't pay much attention to her, until she calls him to fight again, with real blades and no non-lethal spells. He becomes really upset upon hearing this. He refuses and says he won't ever fight her again, since he doesn't want either of them to be killed, and he doesn't want to be eliminated either. And guess what she does when he says he doesn't want either of them to die? Yes, exactly, the girl starts crying. After I call her crazy, you all complain. Later they go to a fountain and talk about their last class, which was spell studies, where the teacher was an old lady who doesn't like wizards using swords in battles. After talking a bit, they move on to the next class, magical biology. Katie is really excited, as she loves magical creatures and animals in general. She says she's been looking forward to this class all day. The teacher starts talking in a frightening tone, saying that in her class, magical creatures are viewed merely as resources, and one or two usually end up as food and drink, and they will learn how to best exploit these creatures. She then summons the creatures that will be used in today's class, giant silkworms, those caterpillars you see there. Basically, in today's class, they have to channel magic into the creatures to make them produce silk. But it's not that simple. If they put too much or uncontrolled magic, the cocoon will turn black and a mini demon will come out. If that happens, they have to burn the creature on their own. The teacher also mentions that they can't receive help from any other student, and if they disregard this rule, they'll lose points. The students start, and some are more skilled than others. In her thoughts, the teacher notes that this year's class has improved significantly, as no one has been bitten so far. Oliver and Chella are doing well, and they help their friends with the spell. Chella says she'll take care of Nanao, as she notices that there's an odd atmosphere between them. Oliver agrees and helps Pete to succeed. Then he looks at Katie and sees she's putting in a lot of effort. At this point, the teacher says she doesn't need that much dedication, just to provide magic to the creatures. But Katie seems to have a different goal, as she's being very cautious. When Katie is on the 9th creature, Chella comes to talk to Oliver. He tells her that Katie is almost done. Chella asks why she wants all of them, since she only needs 5 to pass the test. Oliver says that it's much more than just passing for her. She's taking every possible care to keep all the creatures alive and ensure they don't suffer in the process. However, unfortunately, on the last one, she slips up, and the cocoon turns dark. Oliver tells her to burn it immediately, but Katie says that if she tears the cocoon, everything will be fine. Well, that's not quite what happened. After she opens the cocoon, the big creature comes out nervous and quickly bites her hand. Oliver and Chella quickly respond and cut the creature into pieces. The teacher soon arrives and says they'll lose points for helping her. Later, Katie apologizes to Oliver for making him accompany her to the infirmary. Oliver says it's all right, and then starts talking about his life to her. She says her family had many animals, and that's why she's loved animals and magical creatures since she was young. That's why when she sees an animal or creature suffering or injured, she can't stand it. And that's why she tried so hard to keep all the creatures alive in the previous class. Then Oliver comforts her, but says that the path she's chosen is really tough. But it's noble of her, almost like she's an angel. When he says this, her heart beats faster, and we see that our protagonist has a way with winning over the ladies. Then he tries to disguise it and opens the door. He shows her that she's not alone, there are many friends she can count on. Later, they go to the refectory to eat. While they're talking, they notice Nanao is feeling down, and we already know why, right? At one point, Pete remembers he left his book in the classroom and says he'll go get it. But before he leaves, Oliver and Chella get up and say they'll go with him, as the school can be dangerous at night. Pete's a bit bothered, but eventually accepts their help. Their friends comment that Kimberly School of Magic is located on top of a giant maze and might become dangerous at night when the maze spreads through the hallways. Now, we see the three of them heading toward the classroom, and they easily find the book. But as they try to open a door on their way back, they find themselves trapped, and the scene quickly changes. Now, They're inside the maze, and it looks really menacing. Pete is scared, but Oliver tells him not to worry, as it's normal for freshmen to get lost in the maze during the night, and a veteran or instructor should find them while patrolling. They move on and soon encounter a strange woman. Pete rushes towards her, but Oliver tells him to stop. The woman uses a strange mist that enchants the boys. Pete quickly becomes enthralled and tries to approach her, but Oliver soon wakes him up, and Pete regains his awareness. Oliver says there's no time to waste, and they continue moving forward. Unfortunately for them, soon their path is blocked by another student who says he's also interested in the new freshman. The guy seems like a vampire and says he wants to meet his new student soon. But unfortunately for them, they can't go back either, as the strange woman follows them, and those two veterans who want to beat up the young freshman. The bearded guy who looks like a vampire and the woman are approaching them. The guy casts a spell, and soon, some bones start appearing. And suddenly, a gigantic skeleton monster appears before everyone's eyes. The woman doesn't fall behind and immediately conjures a spell to give birth to a massive creature. I just wish I could understand how all of that fit inside her, but okay. The boys are quite impressed. Pete asks if she's summoning that creature. Chella says no and adds that she's giving birth to it. Finally, the two monsters are ready. Seeing that things have gotten crazy, Oliver calls them to run. However, the vampire guy summons some bones and keeps them trapped while fighting the weird woman. At this moment, Nanatsu arrives and says that this is definitely a place where people go for a brawl. She mentions that she recognizes it well since she has witnessed it many times. And while all this chaos is happening with the creatures, things are literally breaking. After her skeleton monster breaks, the vampire guy invokes another spell and completely reconstructs it. This time, he manages to immobilize the so-called son of that strange woman. At that moment, Nanatsu shatters the bone wall the guy created and moves forward. She says she'll protect them and tells them that their chance to escape is now, and they should go. Nanatsu says that as soon as she enters, the fight will become chaotic, and neither of the two can chase after them. And at that moment, the woman's monster manages to break the skeleton monster again. The vampire guy asks what kind of seed she'll plant in that disgusting womb of hers next. The woman retorts and asks him which body he took that spine from. Nanatsu continues speaking and mentions that someone who should have gone to the grave finally found a place for it. Here, she's talking about herself. The girl is thinking about kicking the bucket again. Didn't I say she was crazy? After this craziness, she tells them to leave and rushes towards the giant monsters. However, Oliver doesn't want her to go to her doom and runs after her to save her. But fortunately, before they could do anything, another veteran appears and sets fire to the monsters. With just one attack, he defeats both of them effortlessly. He says that's enough and reprimands the two shady veterans about the methods they're using to recruit new students. The vampire guy says he sees that his habit of setting things on fire before asking hasn't changed and calls him purgatory. The guy, in turn, tells him not to call him that in front of the new students. He then reassures our freshmen, saying they shouldn't worry because he won't let them lay a finger on them. And he swears by his name, Alvin Godfrey, the student representative of Kimberly. Then, another woman suddenly appears behind the weird creature and tells her it's better to listen to him. She introduces herself and says her name is Carlos Whitrow, a fifth-year delegate and a veteran. Man, the girl's name is literally Carlos. She says it's a pleasure to meet them. Alvin dismisses them and tells them to go back into the depths of the maze. After that, they are released and taken outside. Once outside, Oliver grabs Nanatsu by the collar and asks if she's crazy to want to go to her doom. He says he felt like she really wanted to kick the bucket and did it on purpose. Oliver is really upset because he doesn't want to lose his friend. His other friends tell him to calm down, and they go to a fountain to talk more calmly. Nanatsu says that Oliver was right, and she tells them that she lost attachment to her life a long time ago. She says it all feels unreal, like a dream, and she just wants to end it all at once. She tells a bit about her last battle. She and her comrades fought against an army of 50,000 men, and at some point, she managed to reach the enemy's rear. Before reaching the shogun, who is like a king, she battled a guy and easily defeated him. After that, she was surrounded, and the shogun said he would take revenge on her, and the revenge would be to send her to oblivion without even knowing her name so that no one would remember her. Before she was dragged away, Nanatsu made one request. She wanted to duel a guy named Yasutsuna, the son of the shogun. She had heard that he was the strongest in their clan. The old man gets angry and says that she just sent his son to oblivion without even knowing who he was. Nanao is shocked and says it can't be. The angry old man orders the guards to eliminate her. But before their spears could reach Nanao, they suddenly stop. And we see a guy flying upside down on a broom. He says he saw potential in Nanao and asks if she would like to go to a magic school. And that's how Nanao ended up here, and she thinks all of this has been a dream. That's why she wanted to kick the bucket to fulfill her dream. She adds that there's no pleasure in using her sword for vengeance. Where she comes from, pleasure comes from fighting for mutual love, in a fair duel between two opponents who respect each other. With no malice, she says she learned it should be like that, to find the person she loves and fight with them until one of them kicks the bucket. Oliver asks if she really thinks it's right to eliminate someone you respect and admire. Nanao says yes, but understands that it seems twisted to them. However, when she fought Oliver, she felt exactly that. She was eager to know the outcome of that fight and didn't care if she kicked him or if he eliminated her. Now it's official, she's really out there, isn't she? She says that's why she was so sad when he rejected that idea. It hurt a lot, and it left her with a deeply wounded heart. Since then, she started to desire losing her life. She says she fell in love with him and his sword. Okay, I admit, that does sound a bit weird. Chella says she truly thinks like a warrior but says she can't allow it because they're friends. She says she'll teach Nanao a different way to live. From now on, she should look at Oliver as a person, not just at his sword. Yeah, right there. Chella also says she'll teach her a new way to live, and she should be very happy with her new friends. Nanao accepts and apologizes. She says she won't try to throw her life away anymore and asks them to please teach her how to live in this place. Oliver says it's no problem, and they'll always be by her side. The next day, they go to class. While walking, Nanao gets very close to Oliver, almost bothering the boy. Could it be? Nanao says they told her to look at the person and not the sword, and now she's doing that. Guy and Pete say Nanao has a crush on him, and Oliver gets a little embarrassed. Then, they arrive in the classroom, and at one point, one of the students asks the teacher what a Magelamina is. Well, I'd like to know too, since it's the name of the anime. The teacher decides to explain. He says a Magelamina is a specific type of sword art. He explains that a Magelamina is a technique that, when used, will definitely send the opponent to oblivion, with no chance for defense. He adds that there are 6 known Magelaminas, and for a long time, they tried to develop new ones, but without success until now. Well, since the anime is called The Kingdom of 7 Magelaminas, I imagine another one will be created. Tell me in the comments who you think will create the next one. My guess is Oliver, but I'd like to hear yours, okay? The teacher goes on to say that these techniques are secret. How they work and who can use them has never been disclosed. Some even doubt their existence. He finishes by saying that's all he can tell. Next, Andrews, that troublemaker from the first episode, appears and comes to pick a fight with Oliver. Oliver says he's not looking for a fight, but the guy keeps provoking him. At one point, Chella shows up and scolds the boy. He tells her to shut up and says he's talking to Oliver, not her. Oliver then asks what he wants, and he says it's obvious, he wants a duel. Oliver accepts, and they go. But before they leave, Nanao complains to Oliver, saying she doesn't like what he's saying. She says he shouldn't lose on purpose and should fight with all his might. Andrews gets mad when he hears that Oliver might take it easy on him and asks if Oliver considers him so inferior that he pities him and won't take it seriously. After the class, Chella and Oliver talk. Chella says she has known him for some time and knows him well. He always wants to be the top dog and fears losing his place. After that, Pete comes in a panic, saying Katie has disappeared. Afterward, we learn that she heard they were going to send a troll that attacked her to oblivion. She rushed to stop it from happening. The guy responsible for eliminating the troll tells her to get out of the way. She says she won't, and he asks for her name. She tells him, and he says it makes sense now, considering her parents are as dumb as she is. Katie says she'll pretend not to have heard the insults about her parents but wants him not to send the troll to oblivion. He tells her to leave, and she doesn't. He says he'll use force if necessary and uses the pain spell on her, causing her to fall to the ground in pain. He tries to do the same with Katie's friends, but another veteran along with one of the teachers shows up. He says it was decided that they would investigate the troll case further, so its execution was postponed, and he is free to go. And so he does, leaving with his tail between his legs. After that, they return to school, and even after being hit with that spell, Katie seems to be very happy. At that moment, a bat arrives with a letter from Andrews, and we see that he's challenging Oliver to an official duel. And that's how today's video ends. Did you like it? Then go ahead and leave a like and subscribe to the channel to directly support my work. Seriously, you guys don't know how much it helps. And finally, as always, for those who stick around until the end of the videos, I've left an incredible video on the end screen. It tells the story of Pastry, a baking prodigy who was sent to oblivion and reincarnated as a noble in a world of fantasy and magic. In this new world, he tries to create the land of sweets he always dreamed of. Click here on the screen and check it out, okay? Until next time, take care.